Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us virtually. Obviously, normally, we'd love to be seeing you here in person, but thank you very much indeed for taking the time to come online. My name is Jeremy Walker, and I'm Headmaster of St Peter's. I've got a panel of colleagues and pupils here with me who are going to help out with a question and answer session later on. So please do start, if you haven't already done so, start putting some questions through on the chat facility, so either privately if you want to, or publicly. We did quite a busy session earlier on this morning, and we managed to get through almost all the questions, but if we don't manage to get through everything, we've got a system set up to keep in touch with you after today in any case. In a moment, I'm going to take you through a presentation in which I'll try and give you something of an insight into not just life at St Peter's, but more importantly, why we do things the way that we do. And then we'll go into what would replicate a normal open morning, which is we'd send you off on a tour of the place. And of course, that's going to be done by video, hosted by a couple of our pupils. And then we're going to return metaphorically back here into the Shepherd Hall down at St Peter's 8 to 13 for that live question and answer session. And I've often found that's in some ways the best bit of the day, because it allows us to respond to any particular questions you might have, and it also feels just a bit more interactive than this sort of stuff necessarily does. So having given my presentation, not the best build up in the world, I will now deliver it to you, but it's very much, as I say, intended to give you a good sense of who we are and what we get up to, and as I say, very crucially, why we do things the way that we do. So who are we? Well, we were founded in 627 AD, and we celebrate our 1400th birthday in just a few years' time, and that makes us the third oldest school in the country. And to put that in context, when Guy Fawkes was a pupil here, the school had already been in existence for 1,000 years. And from our origins in the monastery, which became York Minster today, we're probably the most fortunate setting of any school in the country. We have a 50-acre campus here, and it gives us the opportunity to educate from the age of 3 to 18, with all the facilities on site and just a few minutes' walk from the centre of one of the nation's greatest cities. So we combine the feel of a countryside school with the buzz of a city, and about 2 hours, of course, from both Edinburgh and London. We're co-educational throughout and have been since the 1970s. And so we offer a flow of education divided into 3 sections, and that's 2 to 8, 8 to 13, and 13 to 18 by age range. What that does is it enables us to offer an education that's tailored to the different age groups. And if you join us at 11 plus, for example, it gives you 2 years of being at the top of the 8 to 13 section as you prepare to move up to life in the senior school. And in terms of numbers, there are a little over 600 pupils in a senior school from 13 to 18, with around 130 boarders. And a crucial aspect of our approach to life is that we're all here for a full 6-day week, finishing at about 4 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. And at 8 to 13, there are around 400 pupils with a small number of full and part-time boarders. And the day here finishes about 12 noon on a Saturday. And what that means is that we're able to offer one of the fullest school experiences in the country. And crucially, it gives us the time and the space to fit in all the things that we think are important, and crucially, give a sense of rhythm and pace in a very busy and a very fun-filled week. But the manner in which we go about it is very important indeed, because St Peter's is rightly known for excellence in all areas, but you will find that there is an absence of elitism here. And through engagement in our local community, we continue a very long history of being at the heart of this great city and, of course, the wider region. The fundamental aim of education, in our view, is not just to produce 18-year-olds, but rather shape amazing adults. And what we mean by that is young men and women who can go on to enjoy not just personal success, but to live lives which matter and make a positive impact on their world. When we think about the qualities needed for such a life, we believe that it's founded upon 4 very strong pillars, and that's qualifications, skills, interests, and values. And I'd just like to unpack that a little bit more for you now. We, of course, live in a qualification-driven society, so attaining the best grades possible is, of course, very important. But we want our pupils to enjoy their academic subjects. And in our view, the top grades can only actually be achieved when there's real personal engagement and responsibility and interest on behalf of the pupils. So clearly, the subjects our pupils study develop skills and interests, but we all know that a successful life requires much more than the skills gained just in exams. And I'm very fond of saying that while exam results may get you interviews, it's the person who walks through the door that gets the job. And more than that, there is a likelihood that our children are going to be working into their 70s. So even more so, they're going to need interests and hobbies and activities which are going to sustain them and make sure they've got balanced, healthy lives with a really good circle of friendships and relationships. And finally, what really marks out the most amazing adults is a strong and deep sense of values. And for us, that has its origins in our heritage. We all know that integrity and doing the right thing is far more important than doing what is easy. And we also know that anybody can be a success when the sun is shining and the economy is booming. But we know, and recent months have proved this even more so, that life will occasionally drop a grand piano on our toes from time to time. And that's where you need a really solid bedrock of values to inform and support you in life. The way we go about it is to seek to combine everything that we do into developing the key skills for life. And we base those on the ones identified as the most highly prized by the World Economic Forum in their Future Jobs report, as well as our very well embedded 8 learning habits at St. Peter's 8 to 13. And if you look at that list, you get also a sense of how it links into an incredibly busy life at school, but full of opportunities and good challenge and also a tremendous amount of fun. Well, as well as talking about the whole person and the co-curricular, it's completely understandable. People are always very interested in our academic results. And on that measure, Peters, of course, is one of the top schools in the country and a leader in the north of England. And you can see on this slide here some results from both this year and last, because, of course, this year's results were based upon the school's assessments. We had tremendous confidence in our centre assessed grades right from the outset, because every single year in around February half term, we've asked our teachers to produce what they think is the grade the child is most likely to get, should get in the summer based upon everything that they know about them. And here our teachers know the most tremendous amount about their pupils. And we very simply just looked back and said, so come on then, let's ask ourselves the straight question. How accurate have we been in previous years? And the answer was accurate to within 3 to 5% of the actual grades that they got. So we went into that process very confident. And so when the government made the decision to pass over to them, we actually, from a very straightforward point of view, we thought they made the absolutely right decision, and certainly for our pupils. But those two slides there, so 2019 grades and the 2020 grades, gives you something of a sense that although they did come out just a little bit higher than in previous years, very, very much in keeping with our typical track record. And I think a fantastic testament to the hard work and the diligence of both the pupils and the teachers. But those results don't just come from following the syllabus, and sticking in a tram line is frankly really rather boring. So that's why we maintain a really varied programme and a strong sense of being a full learning community. And you can see some examples here, including opportunities for parents to get involved, such as through the public lecture programme. And St. Peter's is also incredibly heavily involved in the fantastic York Independent State Schools Partnership. But what that does is it provides fantastic extension that goes outside and beyond the normal curriculum, and which involves pupils and teachers from across the schools of York, and just one of the ways in which we take a full part in the local scene. And in terms of destinations, well, you can see that the leading universities remain a very popular sense of progress for our pupils, but they are a very sparky and a very creative bunch. And so you also see a variety of different opportunities being looked at. So, for example, heading off overseas or for degree apprenticeships or drama school or art college as well. The key to it is knowing the pupils and their families really, really well. And we have a fantastic careers department that works with the pupils all the way through their time here and with families to make sure that when they're making the applications, whatever the routes and the pathways are, that it's done really successfully and actually suits them right the way down to the ground. But getting out of the classroom and coming back to the co-curricular, it's one of the things that St. Peter's is, of course, incredibly well known for, is the huge range of things that happen outside. And the key for us here is it's about breadth and participation alongside the development of excellence. And as you may know, Peters has regular success at regional and national level in many sports, but we also field A, B, C and D teams. And at St. Peter's 8 to 13, for example, every child will represent the school in competitive fixtures at least 4 times a term. And that national success should not hide the multitude of sports teams. So I could tell you about the hockey teams that got through to the national finals, but more importantly, I could tell you about the 22 other teams in the senior school also competing for us. And there is tremendous breadth on offer. So, for example, every Saturday there are over 50 different sporting activities taking place at the senior school. And in music, we see a very similar picture. And in fact, it's a great example of that sense of excellence at the top, but also huge participation. So the senior school choir numbers about 170 pupils. So just, what's that, about a quarter of the school, or perhaps even more than a quarter of the school, are in the whole school choir. And then we go down into the chapel choir of 70, the chamber choir of 20, and then 2 barbershop groups. So that sense that you can really genuinely take part. But if you are great at something, the opportunity to fly and really take it on to the best possible extent. And a tremendous range of orchestras and choirs and ensembles. And that's true across the park from both 8 to 13 and 13 to 18. And we are, of course, now the choir school for York Minster, and that's something that we're incredibly proud to be. And it means, obviously, that we do have those incredibly talented choristers as part of our school. And what they've done is that they've come and augmented and in some ways multiplied an already thriving and incredibly highly proficient musical scene at the school. So, for example, at St. Peter's 8 to 13, there are over 260 individual music lessons taking place every single week. And the co-curricular programme goes a lot wider than all of that. So, for example, alongside sport and music and art and drama, we have many other activities, including, for example, the Duke of Edinburgh Award, CCS, so the Cadet Force, Community Action, Debating, School Magazine, and a huge host of other clubs and societies as well. We all know that life is very busy these days, and certainly it is at Peters. And we also know as parents that we sort of compare life today back to our own school days, and we might think that we lived in something of a bit of a golden age in terms of how life was. And so one of our aims also is to be a really nurturing community as well. And that's founded upon those 7 values that you can see there. Again, that sits on top of our long heritage. But the values themselves, they're underpinned by a huge structure of pastoral support and development, some of which is visible in some of the structures that you can see on the screen there, and some invisible, because some of it is just about how we live our day-to-day lives and how we interact with each other in the sense of the rapport between pupils and each other, and also between the pupils and their teachers, and also with home. I'm very fond of saying that no one ever got from 11 to 18 on a straight line graph. And sometimes that graph looks a bit more like a piece of spaghetti thrown against the wall of a student kitchen. And that's where working together and being alongside each other, we think makes a tremendous difference. And going back to my theme that it's not about 18-year-olds and that being the end of the process, but about going on much further than that. There's this tremendous ongoing network of being at St. Peter's, the alumni organisation, the Old Peterites, and they have a very strong presence indeed, regionally, nationally and internationally, but also a great parent body and taking part in school events, whether turning up to support their own children or the various social activities that we put on. And the Friends of St. Peter's, our parent support group, are terrific in that. And we even have sort of parent alumni events. So for example, typically there's a sort of dinner dance for former parents of the school coming up to Christmas time as well. So that sense of it being a place for the whole family, for the whole of life. So in terms of applying to St. Peter's, well, there'll be follow-up after this morning. And if we're not able to answer all of your questions, do not worry, because we will be keeping in touch with you in any case. You've got the online application form, which we hope is making life a little bit easier for you, and the entrance examinations in January. And just to give you a sense of the time frame there, we tend to put our offers out in around February half term. And also a great moment just to mention the notion of fee assistance that's available as well. And you can find more information about that on the website or just by keeping in touch with our fantastic admissions team as well. So, as I say, normally you would have been sitting here listening to this presentation live, and then we'd have been fixing you up with some of our pupils to take you for a tour around the school before coming back in for a question and answer session. So we're going to try and replicate that now through a video we put together. My apologies in advance, you get to listen to me again for the first couple of minutes, but then very quickly and quite importantly, you get to meet some of our pupils. So we'll take you for a virtual tour around the school. And please do keep those questions coming in. I'm glancing across at the screen. I can see the questions filling up, which is fantastic. But anything at all you'd like to ask us, please just put them in through the chat facility. And I shall look forward to seeing you when you come back from your tour in just a few minutes' time. Thank you very much. Welcome to St. Peter's School, and thank you for taking the time to join us on this video tour. Life has never been so full of opportunities, but with challenge and change ever present, our aim here is to develop confident, rounded young men and women who make the most of their abilities in preparation for a successful, fulfilled life. Founded in 627 AD, St. Peter's is the 4th oldest school in the world and one of the country's leading schools. Our academic results are outstanding, but we believe that independent thinking and a love of learning are just as important as excellent grades. So here there is a real focus on developing intellectual curiosity in the classroom and beyond, with pupils and staff being members of a vibrant learning community. The achievement of academic potential is central, but an education based only on qualifications is limited and frankly rather dull. School days should be full of fun, adventure, challenge and new experiences. So we offer a huge range of sporting, artistic and cultural opportunities because we want our pupils to establish interests that stay with them for life, as well as learn the skills that will make them stand out in a fast-changing world. There is something for everyone at St. Peter's, with high levels of participation, offering opportunity for the specialist as well as the all-rounder. Your senior education years are amongst the most exciting and rewarding of your time at school. It's a wonderful age when you start to develop particular interests and specialisms before stepping over the threshold into adult life and all that lies ahead. So whether you join us aged 11, 13, 14 or 16, you will find increasing areas of opportunity, whether in the classroom, through academic extension or in the huge co-curricular programme. It's a great time for developing your sense of personal responsibility and taking on leadership alongside working in teams. It can also be a challenging time, and support is here for you and your family all the way through and after your time at St. Peter's. Peterites are confident, but also grounded, and it's their enthusiasm that brings a spark and enjoyment to each day. All pupils are cared for as individuals, and links between home and school are a source of pride, which continues long after school days are over through our active alumni organisation, the Old Peterites. On this tour, you'll see that our beautiful campus brings the calm which comes from a countryside setting while we're just a few minutes from the heart of York. York is one of the best cities in the country in which to spend your school years, and our links to the Minster and partnerships with local schools, universities and other organisations brings a richness to the experience of being a Peterite. Together, this gives a strong sense of being part of a modern, dynamic community where we walk, as our motto says, over ancient ways, and ensure that each generation is equipped with the keys for life. Do enjoy this tour of the school where Mr. Andy Faulconer will show you St. Peter's 8 to 13 for those of you thinking about joining us in Year 7. Two of our upper sixth form pupils, Tom and Hope, will introduce you to St. Peter's 13 to 18 so that you can see how our education moves into the older years, whether you're continuing through the school or considering joining us in third or fourth form, as we call years 9 and 10. There's another film for those of you interested in the sixth form, so please look out for that on our website. Our tours aim to show you how our school structure enables us to give a tailor-made experience for every year group, while giving access to the facilities of the whole school and a strong sense of belonging to the St. Peter's family. I hope to be able to welcome you in person very soon.
Welcome to St. Peter's 8 to 13. My name is Andy Faulconer, and I'm the head of the middle part of St. Peter's School, where we look after 400 8 to 13-year-olds in years 4 to 8. We are located on the lower part of the 47-acre campus in what used to be the Queen Anne's School. We are also the choir school for York Minster. Our 5 year groups are called J1 to J5, and one of the things that makes us different from many schools in the area is that our J1 to 3s, so year 4 to 6 children, are taught by subject specialists for about 2/3 of their week. This allows them access to specialist facilities and teaching from 8 years old. Our 8 learning habits underpin the skills that we are developing in the children. By helping the children develop these learning habits, we are equipping them with the skills that will help them both within and out with school, now and into their futures. The other area that is key to our education is encouraging the children to develop a growth mindset. Understanding that we can all get better at everything, no matter what level we currently are at. We don't say, I can't do this, we say, I can't do this yet. In the Shepherd Hall, every class has a weekly drama lesson, and we also offer Lambda classes as part of our co-curricular programme. We have termly music concerts in the evening, where our ensembles have a chance to perform in front of family and friends. I also take a weekly Heads Assembly here on Friday mornings. We are so fortunate to have a wonderful library space with over 10,000 books and overseen by a full-time librarian. Each class spends 1 lesson a week in the library, and they can also come in at break and lunchtimes if they just want to curl up with a book. Having specialist science teachers and 2 well-equipped science labs means the children can take part in a wide variety of experiments. Our life skills programme includes things such as learning to cook, how to save a life using CPR, bushcraft skills and team building. There are also after-school cookery clubs, which are always very popular. Computing isn't just about learning how to use software applications, although we do make sure the children are confident in their use of the standard office software. It's also about creating and solving problems, and so half of our IT curriculum is devoted to coding and programming. Every child has a double design technology lesson each week, as well as their double art lesson, as we believe that nurturing creativity is so important. This is one of our 2 art studios, where the children have the chance to develop skills in drawing, painting, working with fabric and textiles, as well as ceramics. Having dedicated spaces outside of the classroom really helps the children to develop their artistic creativity. The music life of the school is something you can hear everywhere, with lessons taking place in dedicated music rooms such as our new music pods. We have over 250 individual music lessons taking place each week, with a huge variety of instruments, including the oboe, French horn, drums, the harp, piano, violin, and flute. We have weekly lunchtime concerts. Each term, there's a big evening concert, which gives our larger ensembles a chance to perform. We are the choir school to York Minster, which means that the Minster choristers are all here at school and have their morning rehearsals before singing at evensong later in the day. Our games programme includes rugby, hockey, cricket and tennis for the boys, and hockey, netball, tennis, rounders and cricket for the girls. We travel all over the Northeast to play in competitive fixtures against other schools. There is also the opportunity to go on a UK-based sports tour in J2 and an overseas one in J5, along with our annual ski trip, usually to Italy. In our PE lessons, the children will cover activities such as swimming, volleyball, gymnastics, dance, badminton and football. We are so fortunate to have our own 25-metre pool here on campus, allowing us to teach all our children to be confident swimmers. Our house system is central to our pastoral care. All staff and teachers are allocated to one of our 5 houses. It allows the children to get to know and recognise children in different year groups, making the school seem much smaller. Each teacher looks after a group of 14 children, some from every year group, and will be their mentor for however long that child is in the school. School lunches are homemade by our in-house catering team. There is always a choice of hot options, a hot dessert, as well as soup, sandwiches, salad bar, and yogurt and fresh fruit. The teachers sit and eat lunch with their house, so they get to know the children better. Thank you for looking around St Peter's 8 to 13 with me, even though it has been a virtual experience. The one thing you probably won't pick up on through this medium is the vibrancy and sense of fun and energy that the children have, and the way they enjoy their learning and support each other in it. I hope to be able to welcome you to our school in the near future so you can experience this unique learning environment for yourself. I'm now going to hand you over to 2 of our upper 6th pupils who are going to take you around St Peter's 13 to 18.
Hi, I'm Hope.
And I'm Tom.
And today we're going to show you around the senior section of our school. Pupils join this section of St Peter's in Year 9. The majority of them move up from the 8 to 13 section of the school, but we also have plenty of brand new starters in Year 9 and 10.
This space is known as the Monkey Cage. You will find lots of useful information on the notice boards, such as sports fixtures and information about co-curricular activities, including debating, combined cadet force and much more. There are over 80 different co-curricular activities available at St Peter's, so there really is something for everyone.
The Memorial Hall is at the heart of St Peter's. We usually gather here for assemblies, and the Memorial Hall is also used as a performance space throughout the year. We regularly put on school plays and music festivals, including our annual cabaret performance. Our public lecture series is also hosted in this wonderful space.
Chapel is an important part of school life. We gather here for 3 services during the week, offering a chance for the whole school to come together and reflect. The school choir, chapel choir and chamber choir also gather here for rehearsals.
The library is a wonderful place, whether you are reading for study or leisure. You can request any books you like, and Mrs. Wong, our librarian, is always available to help.
Music and drama are popular academic subjects at St Peter's, as well as offering lots of co-curricular opportunities. The music department is one of the largest and most diverse music schools in the whole country. We have incredible resources, including practice rooms, recording studios, several grand pianos, and even a harpsichord. Whether you want to achieve a diploma on your instrument of choice or simply join the school choir, everyone is encouraged to participate in music at St Peter's. Our school drama productions are legendary, with hundreds of pupils getting involved as cast and crew. As well as these, there are lots of other opportunities to perform in smaller plays and through Lambda classes.
This is the Queen's Building at the heart of the St Peter's campus. It is home to Queen's House and lots of classrooms, including our English department. From here, we have an excellent view of our amazing sports facilities, including the gym, netball courts, swimming pool and cricket pitch.
We focus on core sports of rugby, hockey, tennis, cricket and netball, and rowing is always a popular choice. We've just opened a new boathouse on the River Ouse, adding to the outstanding facilities, including dozens of pitches, swimming pool, gym and sports halls, all right here on our 47-acre campus. Sport is for everyone here, whatever their level, whether you are a complete beginner or competing at an elite level.
Next to the swimming pool is the art department, where you will find lots of fantastic facilities, including a drawing and painting studio, a printmaking studio, a dark room and a ceramic studio. We even have our own Whitestone gallery, where we host regular exhibitions of people's artwork.
The sciences are very popular subjects at St Peter's, and we have our own fully equipped science block and well-equipped chemistry and biology labs, telescopes, and even a cloud chamber. We also host a popular stargazing evening each year in February, and an annual Christmas science lecture.
The Careers Department supports all pupils to find their own pathway and prepare for life after St Peter's. This area of school also includes the listening space, a quiet room where you can talk to one of the listening team about any worries you might have during your time at school.
Welcome to the Pascal Building, home to maths and modern foreign languages. It's a brand new building which opened in November 2019 with lots of light and airy classrooms. Two of our day houses, Clifton and Grove, are behind the Pascal Building. The house system is central to life at St Peter's. Everyone belongs to one of the 10 houses, where you will make friends for life. Being part of a house is so much more than just having a place to go. We have lots of house events, from cross-country to sports day, from swimming to the popular house sing. These events are always great fun with lots of friendly competition.
This is The Rise, one of 2 girls' boarding houses. There are 2 boys' boarding houses too. The boarders have made their own films for you to watch, but as a boarder myself, I can tell you that it is a fantastic way to make the most out of everything St Peter's has to offer, and also make friends for life. Small groups of younger pupils share rooms, while sixth formers tend to have one roommate or a single room. There is plenty of communal space in every house, including gardens, lounges, and study spaces. You can always make yourself a snack in the kitchen too. Boarders can choose to spend their free time taking part in organised activities or doing our own thing. We love popping into York. The city centre is just 10 minutes walk away.
The last stop on our tour is the dining hall, where lunch is served every day. There are always several options to choose from, with delicious hot and cold meals served fresh from the kitchen. Boarders can also enjoy dinner in the dining hall, as well as the famous Boarders Brunch. You can watch our boarding videos to find out more about boarding at St Peter's School.
We hope you have enjoyed the virtual tour of St Peter's.
We'd love to welcome you to our school in person one day.
Well, welcome back. As Mr. Faulconer said in his section of the video, one thing we can never give you is the true sense of when you're actually walking the turf here as to what the feel and the spark of the place is. But I hope that's given you something of an insight into it. And we're now sort of open to your questions. So thank you so much. There's a number of extremely good questions have come in. So thank you. And please do keep putting them in if you would like to do so. I'm first of all going to invite the panel to introduce themselves, and then we shall get cracking. So I'm going to go across to my left, first of all, and to one of my colleagues, Mr. Stephen Gwilliam, who's the first person to introduce.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Steve Gwilliam. I'm the director of the co-curricular programme here, 13 to 18. Been doing that for a couple of years now. Prior to that, boarding house master and a day house master, and have been here at the school for 18 years.
Thank you very much. And next door, a suspiciously young-looking teacher. I shall let Ollie introduce himself.
I am Ollie Tomlin. I'm Deputy Head Boy of St Peter's and proud member of the Manor Boarding House. I have been at the school since J4, so when I was 11, and I study maths, physics and economics at A-level.
And plays a bit of rugby in his spare time. So coming along to my next colleague, which is Miss Tracy Mounter.
Hi everyone, I'm the Pastoral Deputy for 13 to 18. I teach history and I coach netball, and I'm in charge of the mental health within the 13 to 18 sector of the school.
Okay, thank you. And coming along next, a familiar face in the video, Mr. Andy Faulconer.
Yeah, so I'm Andy Faulconer. I'm head of St Peter's 8 to 13, and this is my 16th year as head of the school.
Thank you. And as it pans across me, across to Mr. Duncan Gillis.
Hello, I'm Duncan Gillis. I'm the academic deputy for 13 to 18, so I look after all the teaching and learning in that part of the school. I've been here for 8 years, and I'm also involved in boarding as my wife Dorothy runs one of the 2 girls' boarding houses.
And next we move along to Hope.
Hello, I'm Hope. I'm head girl at St Peter's. I joined as a boarder in 4th form, and at A-level I study maths, art and history of art.
Thank you. And Hope obviously was one of our hosts on our tour as well. So thank you very much indeed for that. And moving along finally to Mrs. Kathy Lees.
Hello there, I'm Kathy Lees. I'm academic deputy at St Peter's 8 to 13, and I also teach in the English department, and I've been here for 10 years now.
Lovely. Thank you very much indeed. So And for those of you who sort of perhaps may not know a little bit about my background, I've been headmaster of St Peter's now for 2 years. Prior to that, I was headmaster of another 3 to 18 co-educational school in Kent called King's Rochester. And prior to that, I've held sort of senior management positions. I've been a housemaster of boarding houses, head of department, teacher, coach of hockey, enthusiast, etc., etc. So my role, I suppose, is I'd look after the whole of St Peter's from 3 to 18 and the whole setup of the place. And on a day-to-day basis, more closely sort of aligned in terms of my work with the 13 to 18 section of the school. Right, so we're going to go into a question. The first one I'm going to pick up on is a question about Saturday school. And so the question is, for someone who's never done Saturday school before, please can you explain a little bit about it, and is it different to the rest of the week? And the pattern I'd like to do with this is to sort of pass it between the 8-13, 13-18 section. So I'm going to ask Mr. Faulconer to answer that first from the 8-13 perspective.
Yeah, so at St Peter's 8 to 13, we have 5 academic lessons on a Saturday morning. So we finish at 12 o'clock, and then that's us then finished for the weekend. So we don't have any sports in the afternoon. And those extra 5 lessons allow us to offer a broader curriculum than many other day schools. So we're able to offer more art and design, for instance, more modern foreign languages, more sport, more music. So it allows us to offer all our children a broader and more varied curriculum.
Thank you. Mr. Gilliam, Steve, would you mind answering from a sort of 13-18 perspective?
As Andy said, Saturday mornings or Saturday school is the key to the broad offer that we're able to give. So it is an absolutely crucial part of what we provide as a school. The question sort of asks, how does it feel? In some ways, it feels very different to another school day. You've got lessons in the morning, and like on a Wednesday, you've got games or another activity in the afternoon. Often, for those of you in team sports, there will be fixtures on a Saturday afternoon. Those can be home or away. And there's also something a little bit special about Saturdays, that sort of feeling you're doing something slightly different and engaging in something exciting, new and different. So if you're not used to it, you quickly get used to it. And certainly for those of you involved in some of the team things, it often brings those few little nervous mornings as you're waiting for your fixture ahead, wherever that might be. Something I really enjoy.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it has the same sort of level of energy as the rest of the week, but at the same time, the energy just does feel slightly different. It almost feels like it's the extra day, it's the extra time that gives us space to do all the other things. One of the things that I've noticed since moving here as well is that I see a lot more parents around on Saturdays, and I think that for parents who've got incredibly busy working lives, having Saturday school, yes, it does of course give you perhaps some time for yourselves on a Saturday, but it also seems to give an opportunity for parents who wouldn't otherwise sort of necessarily spend much time bringing the children to school, collecting them from school, being around, seeing what's going on. So it actually gives a bit more of parental engagement in the life of the school as well. Question I had, moving up, because my children are both at the school as well, was, does that mean that Sundays is going to be just completely spent doing homework? And the answer is no, not at all. I'm sure it isn't just reflecting on my children, but they don't actually have to do much work at all on a Sunday. In fact, rarely if at all. And I think that something that it also does is it builds in us a sense of sort of organisation and reliance and self-purpose that actually keeps us going forwards. And I think, busy people get an awful lot of things done, as we all know. So I'd like to go back up to the top of the questions now, because there was some there to do with the academic life of the school. So there's a question here, which is, do you have specialist teachers for each subject, and how do you reward children for academic achievement? So I'd like to go across to Mrs. Kathy Lees from 8 to 13 and then come back to Mr. Gillies.
Yes, so in year 7 and 8, we have specialist teachers in every subject. We reward children in various different ways. So every child carries around with them an organiser, and if they've done a particularly good piece of work or made a particularly interesting observation in a lesson, then we might stamp in their organiser what we call an EP, or an expectation point, and they count towards their house totals. So they're taken very seriously by the pupils. We then also have a system of awarding merits for work, and that work is work that has been particularly well done for that pupil. And then on top of that, we have distinctions, and distinctions are, they're more difficult to get because they are for a piece of work which is exceptional for the year group, so not just particularly good for that pupil. In addition to that, at the end of the year, we have a speech day where prizes are awarded in each subject area and across the curriculum for different subjects, including music, art, and games.
Thank you, Duncan.
Yeah, so in terms of the specialist teachers, that is exactly the same up in the 13 to 18 section of the school. So each subject has its department and its teachers who have specialised in that area. In terms of rewarding achievement, I think the key word here is achievement rather than attainment. And so, as Kathy has just said, it's about what is a particularly good thing for that pupil. It may be because it is just excellent in itself. It may often be about improvement. It may be about asking good questions. It may be about sort of responding to advice. We have the distinctions again, which is a sort of citation, which goes to the headmaster. They're much more rare, and they're usually for a longer term piece of work, and they're for something which is pretty special. They're very important to both encouraging people, but also there's a house competition related to that. So as people get their individual merits, most houses have a little sort of prize for those ones there, but they are added up, and there's a merit cup which causes great cheering and some sadness for those who don't win it at the end of each term and at the end of each year.
Yeah, the awarding the merit cup is always great fun, actually, in final assembly at the end of each term. And we have a very good system here. So some people, as you know, when they look at sort of the Olympic league's medal table, what they'll do is they'll say, well, that's all well and good, but then you divide it by the population density of each country, and you come out with some really interesting ones. So a friend of mine's very fond of pointing out that the Bahamas is actually really amazing at Olympic medals based on the sort of the population density that they've got. So we do exactly the same things. It's a number of merits divided by numbers of pupils in the house. So then you get the average. And the last time we did it, it had to go to 3 decimal points. So that was it was just a tremendous bit of work there. Okay, so we got some fascinating questions coming in. I love the wording of this one. I'm just going to read it out completely straight. How do you encourage children to reach their academic potential without flogging them into it so that they develop a love of learning? Now, that was something that I was trying to emphasize in my presentation as well. So great follow-up question. I think I'd like to, because to me, that gets sort of the connection between the classroom, but also the pastoral system and the nurturing of the individual. So I'm going to go to Andy Faulconer first, and then to Miss Mounter afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, I think our growth mindset approach to learning is key to that, which is all about encouraging the children to realize that they can get better at everything in life, whatever level they're currently at, and not to set limits on that. And that if they approach things with the right attitude, and if they are prepared to work hard and listen and act on support and advice, then they shouldn't put limits on what they might be able to achieve now and in the future. So the growth mindset approach, alongside the 8 learning habits, which again are the sort of the skills that underpin learning anything in life, are really key to helping children achieve the potential.
Okay, thank you, Tracy.
Through our tutoring scheme, through the pastoral system from 13 to 18, we're looking at the World Economic Forum and the skills needed for the jobs market as they step out the gates of St. Peter's. And within that, we're doing it alongside coaching. So very much getting the pupil to decide and talk through their options and what they feel that they want to excel at. So we're basing it really on a coaching model from 13 to 18.
Okay, lovely, thank you. And I'm going to stay on some things that connect to that, to do with mental health issues. So there's a very good question. It's please could you comment a little more in detail about the mental health issues facing young children today around social media, online bullying, ghosting, etc. And is it something you talk to them about and support them with? Absolutely, 100%. So before I sort of give you some of the detail of that, from my own perspective, in many ways, when you look at the work that comes through the research into the lives of young children today, interestingly, it's this very similar issues that affected us when we were children. So it will be to do with relationships at home and at school and friendship groups, anxiety about the future, self-perception, self-image, all those sorts of things. So in some ways, the underlying concerns have not changed. What has changed is the nature of life and the way we live our lives. And in that, I very much see social media and things like that as being an accelerant and a catalyst. So what it's done is it's made things happen more rapidly. It's made things happen faster. It's put a different tone on things if you see something written down. So that's my own sort of personal perspective about that. And I think as a nation, we're much better about talking about mental health than we ever used to be, which is fantastic. And of course, in the last 7 months, something that the whole nation's been talking about and focusing on has been what is happening to us of our emotional states and our levels of happiness and our sense of anxiety and uncertainty and things. So it's a very prevalent part of life always, and perhaps especially so now. On the back of that, I'd actually like to pass that over to Hope and to Ollie to begin with, to perhaps reflect during your time at the school about sort of the level of support that there is for pupils when life is not going so great for them. So Hope first.
Yep. As Mr. Walker said, the whole country itself, the whole nation, everyone is talking about mental health more. And I think that goes for St. Peter's too. We're really trying to push talking about how you're feeling and pastoral care. So recently, I think it was last year, the listening space came in, and that's a route for you to go down if you've got worries, something you can talk about, anything that isn't serious. So it doesn't matter if it's a day-to-day issue, but there are bigger ways for you to go down to seek mental health support. So you can go to your house parents, directly to Miss Mounter if you'd like, and through that you can access the school counsellor. But I think it's not just about leaving it until you get big issues, it's about nipping it in the bud. And I think we're really pushing talking about our mental health in general. Yeah.
Thank you. That's really helpful, I think. And Ollie, please.
I think just the house system's great to actually, because it just gives you people that you know in house that you can talk to. So if you join in third form, fourth form, you can talk to any of the upper sixth. They'll be happy to talk to you. If you have a problem that you just want sorting out, you have your tutor you can talk to, your housemaster. There's just a lot of people actually in your house that you can go and talk to and solve any problems that you have at the school.
Thank you. And it's, as you can probably pick up there, it's something that the school has a sort of a total commitment to, and it's about teachers as well, because the teaching staff are working incredibly hard. They have been for the last 7 months doing things differently. Now that we're back at school, we've got the children separated. We're very fortunate we've been able to chunk the school into bubble zones for different year groups, and it's meant, of course, that the teachers are now moving from one location to another, getting into a classroom, setting up their lesson, teaching it, moving on to the next classroom, and going on and on. So something that we have a focus on, it's about the whole community of the school that we're focusing on in these sort of areas as well. Perhaps if I can pass to Mr. Faulconer and then to Miss Mounter to talk a little bit more about some of those structures around mental health.
Yeah, I mean, next week, we're as a whole school, we're looking at National Mental Health Week. So we have a whole series of activities that we're doing across the 2 to 18 school, looking at that, the different focus on each day. And it's good to have times of the year when we focus particularly about it, but then there's also just the ongoing pastoral care that's happening week in, week out, where the mentor system at 8 to 13 is one way where you've got teachers looking after a group of 14 children from different year groups. So I'm in York House, I look after 14 children, my mentor group, and they will come to me if they've got any particular issues or things that are worrying them, and I've got a particular focus in looking out for them. And then obviously at the senior school they have similar things which Ms. Mounter can talk about.
Yeah, so this year we've launched Lessons for Life, which is our PSHE programme. So every pupil from third form, so year 9, right up to upper 6. So when they leave, we'll get a 40-minute period of PSHE a week, and in that we're focusing on coping strategies. So when life does get difficult, what can the individual do to help themselves, and obviously then giving them advice, and they're creating journals on seeking obviously external support as well. Within that we also have school counsellors, as Hope mentioned, the listening space, but we also have tutors, a chaplain, so there's plenty of people that pupils can be directed to speak to.
Lovely. Tracy, thank you very much indeed. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to sort of group the questions into different categories. We've got a number of questions which I'll come along to shortly to do with the co-curricular programme. Lots of people interested to know more about that, but understandably a number of questions here to do with the academic life of the school and entrance testing as well. So in J4, what time do children finish every day, and do children have homework every day? So Mrs. Lees.
So the end time for the day is the same in every year. The school day from a lesson perspective finishes at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And at that point, the children are free to go home. But if they'd like to take advantage of the co-curricular programme, then they can go to one of the many clubs that we'll have on offer that starts at around 4:15. So they have a little chance for a break and a drink and a nip to the toilet. And then they go on until roughly 5 o'clock. If a child doesn't really want to join a club for any reason on a particular day, then we also have Prep Club, which takes place every day, Monday to Friday, and that can finish at 5 o'clock or at 5:20. And at that point, that's the end of the school day for us. Okay, thank you. One for Mr. Faulconer. Now that you're educating the choristers from York Minster, are intake numbers at J4, so 11 plus, lower than they might otherwise be?
So the answer for this coming September, there will be 4 less places than there normally are. So normally we would have 20 spaces going in at 11 plus. For this year, we'll have 16. And we usually have around 4 people applying for each space.
Thank you. There's a question, what's the value added element at the school? I'll take that question in two parts, if I may. The first way I'd like to look at it is purely on the academic side, and you may be familiar with the notion of children having sort of a baseline sense of what sort of grades should they get and what sort of grades do they get, and obviously the difference between the two being the academic added value. So Peters sits up in the top sort of 10-15% of all schools in the country for our value added performance at both A-level and GCSE, and in very simple terms, a child who might have got sort of BBB or even ABB at another school would get AAA here or A-star AA. They just put that in a very straightforward measure. To me, the value added element of school is it's about what does it make you as a person. And so the value added element at Peters, I think, is just absolutely second to none in terms of equipping that person and thinking about amazing adults and thinking about producing 30, 40 and 50-year-olds, not 18-year-olds, is right smack at the heart of what we do. And then the kickers on top of that, the value added of being on our site where we have, being so close to York, all the connections that we have locally. So a tremendous amount of value added, I think, perhaps in whichever way you look at it. We have just going to stay with the academics just for a little bit longer. So how often do you test the children academically and in what ways? And do you put children into sets for different subjects? So Mr. Gillies, please, for 13-18.
Okay, so the answer about testing is it does vary from subject to subject, and there are situations where frequent testing is useful and situations where one wants to wait for a greater length of time. More typically, subjects like maths and sciences will have more frequent testing. I think the important thing about the testing is these are always formative. What the purpose of it is to get the pupils to have a go at something, to understand where they're strong, where they're weak, and it's a very sort of affirming process. So in maths, there may be several tests in the half term. If you go to a subject, an A-level subject, which is a literary subject, so history or English, testing per se is going to be much less common, but because it takes you a longer time to gather enough information in terms of your learning before you can start to test there. But we're very much not a testing culture school. We're a learning school. So we use testing where it is helpful for learning and for feedback. That was that part of the question. The other part of the question was the setting. Some subjects we set in and some subjects we don't, and that is about what works best for the pupils to learn. So, for example, mathematics is set from year 7, 8, and 9 all the way through. English and science are not set until year 10, and modern languages are set from year 10 in some areas. So again, the decision to do that is very much about how the classroom environment will work best for different things. And in an example of maths, the really important thing is people are confident at their particular level and then move on to the next stage at the right pace. That said, it's important to recognise that the sort of end results, the qualifications we're preparing everyone for is the same, but the setting is all reflecting the fact that different pupils are going to be at different stages in a path to fulfilling their potential in each subject.
Thank you. And I'm just going to pass over to Mrs. Lees, but I think what we'll do is we'll move from these questions now into some of the co-curricular ones and then see how many more we've got time for. Do keep the questions coming in, and if we do run out of time, then we'll obviously be able to get back in touch with you after today. So cross to Mrs. Lees from 8 to 13 to do with testing of pupils and also setting arrangements.
Yes, so much like Duncan just said, we're not interested in ranking pupils, for example. We're a growth mindset school, so we're interested in finding out what the children know and what they need to know next, and in communicating that with them. And we do that through a range of different strategies. Most of those are formative assessment that take place in lessons. So there might be diagnostic tests at the beginning of an activity or topic, and then tests that are taken at the end, but these will not involve revision. The children may not even realise they're being tested, and that will help inform our future planning and target individual children. At the end of the year, we do sit exams in our examine subjects, but we take those, they're very light touch, and our goal here is just to get them ready for learning exam technique. We're playing the long game, so those are not a massive deal, and we prepare them more for the revision side of things than we do for the results side, because we think that's the most important skill they need to learn. We only set in maths at 8 to 13. All of the rest of the subjects they take with their form or in a group.
Thank you. And hopefully that gives you something of an idea that you can actually get tremendous of academic excellence and outputs, as well as having a hugely broad co-curricular life as well, but without necessarily seeming as though every single day all we're focusing on is, children as units and little sort of minute bits. There's a great saying, which is if you want to know how well your carrots are growing, don't pull them up every 5 minutes to have a look, but rather sort of know when the best time to check into things are. So we'll move now to some questions on the co-curricular. And so Ethan would like to know more about the teams, fixtures, training facilities and player pathways to representative cricket at the school. Somebody else has asked about a tennis club a bit more and how much tennis is there. So I think if I pass over to Mr. Gwilliam first of all, and perhaps if we talk about cricket and about tennis, and I think I'll bring Ollie in as well, but perhaps go a bit broader in terms of other sports as well. So over to you, Steve.
In terms of teams, and this applies to cricket, rugby, hockey, netball, you can put it across. We run teams as far down as we can, so that we might be doing things at the top level within a year group, or at the senior end of the school running an A team. But we also run right down to B, C, D teams, so that everybody who wants to play and represent the school can do so. And that's the same for cricket, tennis, and various other sports, as I mentioned. There's a lot of sport at the school if that's what you want to be involved with, up to 4 times a week, and indeed 1 or 2 lunchtime practices elsewhere. So if you are really keen on your sport, you can spend a lot of time virtually on a daily basis practicing with others, dependent upon the sport that you are playing. With cricket, I'm very fortunate. I've got a first 11 cricket player sat right next to me who's quite a hostile opening bowler. So I'll let him chat a little bit more on that one.
In terms of just playing cricket at the school, I mean, Mr. Sharp heads up the cricket at the school. He coaches at J5. He helps out with 3rd and 4th form, and then also takes the first team. And so he'll see you from a young age and help to develop your skills right from when you're 12, 13, and then right up until you're playing first team now. And so if you're wanting to play whatever level, he'll help you to get better, and he'll also look out for you. So if you are a good cricket player, then you will have opportunities to play high level cricket, opportunities to play first team at a younger age. And so there are opportunities there to play high level cricket, and he'll take you out and give you extra training sessions if that's what you need to play representative cricket outside the school as well.
Thank you. And Ollie, being typically modest, might also have mentioned that he's on the England rugby player pathway as well. So another sport where there's great sort of patterns going through. And of course, schools was in a strong position. Well, last time Rosslyn Park was played, and of course the under-16s won that national rugby competition as well. So a bit there. I think a little bit on tennis as well. But I'll come to Mr. Faulconer, please.
Yes, at St Peter's 8 to 13, with our sport, we're trying to do 2 things. At the top end, we're trying to produce teams that will compete on a national level, and we do that year in, year out. But we also want everybody to represent the school, because it's all about encouraging people to enjoy sport and to want to continue to do it right through into their adult lives. So we're putting out A, B, C, D, E teams in order to have big block fixtures against some of the bigger schools in the northeast. In J2, we have a mini sports tour down to the southwest of England. The whole year group goes. In J5, the boys go on rugby tour to northern Italy, and the girls go on netball tour to Spain. So that's an opportunity to again see sport more as not just playing and competing, but also it's the community and family that goes around being part of a team.
And I think that sense of participation is such a massive part of the school. I think sometimes schools focus a bit too much on what are the top sort of 10% or top 20%, what are they doing? And I think at Peters, one of the things we focus on is how's everybody doing and how's it all fitting in? So my example earlier on of a senior school choir was sort of, such a large number of people participating and really encouraging people, and also trying to encourage people not to be overly specialised. So you can have somebody who's going to be at, potentially national, international level at whatever they're really good at, but I don't want them to end up being just purely that solo person. I want them to be doing, if they're a great musician, I want them to be doing some sport, I want them to be doing some other co-curricular and some academic extension as well. So that breadth and variety. So moving across then into music, tell me a bit more about the music department. What music opportunities are there, including brass ensembles, jazz orchestra, and are there any music grade requirements or auditions for them? Mr. Gillis, please.
Yeah, look, I think the really great thing about the music department is its breadth of styles of music. We have an exceptionally good chapel choir, and the very sort of traditional classical Renaissance sort of work is done there. We also have a very good swing band, both of whom have been in competitions, national competitions, and got to the finals of those. There is for any ensemble you can put together, there will be a group there. There's a very edgy group called the Little Big Band. There's string quartets and so forth. So lots of those. Now, in terms of music grade requirements, there aren't any specific ones there. It's about being confident that you want to join that particular group. In some of the smallest of the music groups, there is some auditions. So, for instance, there's the small group called the Barbershop, and the Barbershop, which are both two barbershop style quartets, singing ensembles. There are auditions there, but that's based on the reality that needs to be quite small, and a lot of people want to be in there. But in any of the instruments or voices you want to be part of, there are ensembles for you to join.
Thank you. And if I can pass to Mrs. Lees for something of the scene at 8:13.
Yes, it's actually a very similar picture. We have an incredibly enthusiastic head of music who joined the school last year, who is trying to get pretty much every child in the school involved in music in one way or another. And so we have ensembles even now, while things are still quite complicated within their bubbles. And similarly, you can have an ensemble in anything really, depending on what different instruments are being studied by the children at school and what our peripatetic music teachers and Holly Craven, our head of music, is able to put together. But the sky's the limit in my experience of working with her so far, and you can be a complete beginner and still join one of the ensembles, but then some other ensembles might be for the more practiced, so there will be something for everybody.
Lovely, thank you very much indeed. And now we've got a question about how do we maintain learning during the pandemic. I'd like to hear from the pupils on that one. So Hope, if you could perhaps talk about the sort of the academic side of maintaining learning, but also the wider things that we try to keep going.
So obviously I'm doing A-levels. We had about 2 video call lessons on Teams per week. But in addition to that, we tried to stick to our normal timetable, so they would set work for the other periods. And there were still ways that you could get your work marked. So we ended up doing our lower 6th exams, which I know many schools weren't able to do. In terms of outside of the classroom or at your kitchen table, we ran the Isolation Olympics, which was a house event, but it was weekly random challenges, very random challenges sometimes, which helps bring house spirit together, even though you're so far apart. You could be in Australia, and because we're borders, and I was in England, so it was quite there were often collaborative challenges as well, which were really good. We had house meetings as well, so some international students would wake up early to help join in. We also did sports challenges, so instead of doing house sports events like cross country, netball, we did virtual ones. So we used Strava and collected distances for running, cycling, and yeah, it was really good to have something to do while you're at home.
And some fun ones. We did some fundraising as well, and so we had one which was first of all we thought we'd get from York to New York, whether it was a running, cycling, rowing, or whatever, and that was staff and pupils. So I sort of shoved my few kilometres on the running machine into that one. We ended up in Honolulu in the end, rather than New York, but that was great fun. We were also able to do fundraising. So we did things like we donated loads of PPE, but we also made visors, so face masks for local NHS workers as well, and we accommodated doctors in our boarding houses where they were unable to go home at the end of a long shift. So we were able to sort of keep integrated there. But Ollie, perhaps I pass to you for your experience of life in lockdown.
I think Hope covered most of it really. We were learning online twice a week, and I think we were able to actually get ahead of the syllabus because we weren't able to have the full-on lower 6th exams. We had to have different assessed exams, so we were able to actually get ahead of the syllabus as to where we are now. And in terms of just in sports teams, we could stay together. I know in the pre-season senior rugby, the first team, we all challenged each other to try and perform trick shots and keep up with challenges and stuff. So we all kept a sense of community together, even though we couldn't actually train together or be together at the time.
Ollie, thank you. And Kathy again for the 8 to 13 perspective.
We chose to do it slightly differently, 8 to 13, because some of our children obviously aren't completely independent learners yet. So we wanted instead to put them in front of teachers all day, every day. So we rewrote our curriculum so that the children were able to have live Teams lessons with their teachers 5 a day, every day. And we were able to set them work and have it submitted through that. And it also meant that we were able to keep our pastoral care going as well, because we all had mentor teams so that we could chat with them pastorally as well. So it was pretty successful.
Thank you very much. So the question is, how does it feel at St. Peter's for children from a non-religious family? Well, I think you would feel very, very at ease, I think is the best way to put it. Yes, we do gather in chapel, and we do gather in the Minster as well from time to time for our major services. And that Christian background and heritage is very much the bedrock on which we stand. There's no question about it. But it's presented in a non-exclusivist way. So, for example, in chapel, the chaplain, other people who speak in there, are giving us some great opportunities to pause, to reflect, to hear some really interesting ideas which very much shape our sense of values and ethos and purpose. So if you come from a religious family, you will feel very, very at home in terms of what the school is doing. If you come from a non-religious family, I think you'll still feel totally at ease with the environment and the nature of it as well. I think we're moving towards sort of the end of our time. But there's some very important logistic questions here. So one is, have the entrance exam dates been set? And if so, what are they? And what sort of entrance tests will I have? And do you offer specimen exam papers? So on sort of all things to do with entrance assessments, I'm going to pass to Mr. Gillies for the first bit.
Okay, so the entrance times for year 9, so I'll speak just about those ones. That is in the third Saturday of January. Now, with the way the COVID is working, exactly how we run that, we'll advise you as the rules imposed by government become clearer. What the content of it is as follows. There is one 1-hour test in English. There's another 1-hour 15-minute test in mathematics. There's a short sort of general intelligence test is probably the best way to describe it. Numeric, verbal and non-verbal reasoning. They're about 10 minutes each. And then what we want to do is have an interview. Now, the interview isn't really us firing questions at the pupils, but rather them bringing in something, or it may be showing us something on screen, which is of interest to them. It may be a project they've done at school. It may be talking about an interest they've had, something they've built at home, a poem they've written, an article they've done in one of their subjects. So the idea is that they come and say, look, this is what actually I'm most interested in, and it's really getting a sense of what driven by the pupil. So in summary, we've got a maths test, an English test, a general aptitude test, and this sort of discussion where the pupil sort of leads it by saying, look, yeah, this is the work, or this is the achievement I'm proud of. In terms of specimen papers, yes, we will send out specimen papers, so you can see the sort of work which is covered in the sort of questions which will be asked in the maths and the science, and that will come out to you before Christmas.
Thank you, and a little bit about how we're going to manage it if we're doing it remotely.
Oh yeah, sorry. If we're doing it remotely, which it's probably more likely than not, we will look at ways such, and it will be slightly different for different people in different situations, but your school may administer them. That's one approach, depending on which school you're at. We may do it, if that doesn't work, we can do a sort of a live invigilation where we just send you the papers at, let's say, one of the papers at 9 o'clock, and we just say, well, you can just put your camera on and camera looking at the pupil doing it, and then we'll just sort of supervise it that way. But what we want to make sure is that whichever way works best for you, because we want to see, get a good sense of what each individual pupil can do, and we don't want the difficulties of the circumstances to inhibit what we see of a given pupil's strengths.
Thank you very much. Kathy.
Yes, ours is actually going to be very similar for J4 entry. Normally, we'd obviously invite you into the school and we'd do a lovely day where you'd all get to meet each other as candidates and get to know the school a little bit as well. But obviously, we won't almost certainly be able to do that. So instead, we'll be sending out some reasoning style papers. Usually, we'll also send a creative writing paper out. We haven't quite worked out the logistics of exactly how we're going to do that, but it will follow a similar format to what they're doing 13 to 18.
Okay. Lovely. Thank you very much. I'm afraid we're running out of time, and there are just a few questions that we have been able to come to. We'll respond to you separately outside of this meeting. For those, there's some questions there about how the school guides and develops or helps create appropriate career aspirations, routes for pupils, and formal links with the university. And yeah, we do have some very good connections with the local universities as well, and further afield. But we can answer that one more fully after this meeting. There's some questions about bus services as well. So I'm very sorry that we have sort of now run out of time. But if I can just sort of bring it all back in together, to me, I think everything comes back to our fundamental aim, which I think you can summarize as producing amazing adults who have the opportunity for a tremendous amount of opportunities and great fun whilst they're going through their teenage years. And genuinely, we do think that is the absolute best approach to education. And we're fortunate to have the environment, the setting in which we can deliver. And perhaps it's why the Sunday Times named us as the top independent school in the north of England. And in many ways, the clue is on the crest, and you can see the crest actually as another example of it on the lectern I'm speaking from. It's all over the school. I think there's about 30 odd different representations of the cross keys as you look around, and it's the cross keys. They're the symbol of our heritage. They're the symbol of St. Peter, obviously, as well. And I think you could just sum it up by saying that the key to life actually is through all that we do. We're not just giving children the key to life, but actually enabling them to proactively turn those keys and make the most of all their opportunities and for the rest of their lives as well. But from all of us here, just thank you so much, first of all, for being involved this morning and for being present with us, even remotely. But massively thank you for the questions, because actually it's the questions which really enable us to interact a bit more effectively with you and to get a sense that we can really gauge, where your particular interests or perhaps concerns might be, and sort of engage with you directly in that way. So please don't see this morning as being the end of that process in terms of engagement. Keep in touch. Got a fantastic admissions team here at St. Peter's who'd be more than happy to help you and guide you on that little journey over the coming weeks and months as you perhaps look towards where life may be taking you. So finally, from myself and from all my colleagues here on the panel at St. Peter's, thank you so much for joining us, and I would like to wish you all a really great weekend. Hopefully the rain will stop at some point. All the very best, and thanks for coming.